Disease mongering, which has been helped by the direct-to-consumer ads on TV, it's based on raising doubts, making you afraid of your own health and your own well-being. And it's very much pathologized getting old, okay? And with women, certainly this hormone replacement. But with men, the low T is very parallel. And in both cases, with the women and the men, these hormone supplementations from synthetic drugs they activate hormone-based cancers, hormone-driven cancers. So in both cases, if you had some innocuous benign cancer in your body, you put the hormone in there, it's going to activate. And so there's real reasons why somebody in their 50s or older does not want estrogen or testosterone put in their body.
The Vidal Speaks Podcast.
Episode 95, Martha Rosenberg, on food and environmental hormone disruptors and why hormone drug therapy is not the answer. Welcome to Vidal Speaks. My name is Deborah Vidal, former 11-year LPGA golf pro turned classical homeopath, certified plant-based nutritionist, and wellness coach. Each week here on Vidal Speaks, we bring you knowledge, inspiration, or natural remedies to help you take charge of your health and feel your best. I believe health is freedom and knowledge is power, so tuning in each week will give you the power to take steps towards freeing yourself from the chains that hold you back from having the energy to do all you want in life. No matter where you are in your journey of wellness, Vidal Speaks can help. I promise. Hi, Vidal Speakers. Welcome back to another Wednesday. I always feel like you're sitting around my table and we're going to have a great time talking about all kinds of issues in life that have to do with health. That's why I love this show and I love my work, because it's so inspiring to know those of you out there feel the same about so many issues, and it's a way for all of us to connect. And then there's those of you out there that are sick and you're using this podcast to learn how to take charge of your health and put your health in your own hands by learning as much as you can. Remember, knowledge is power and health is freedom, and don't ever forget that. No matter where you are on your health journey, you know the Vidal Speaks family of listeners are all here for you. I certainly am here to encourage every one of you on your journey. I know from those of you that wrote me to let me know how much you love the show and how many changes that you've made in your life because of this show. And that makes me so happy. You can't even imagine. I just smile from ear to ear when I read an email like that. So keep up the good work. I hope you know by now that I'm not a person to push you. I just want to move you into a new healthy life at whatever pace feels right for you. Affordable and the most sustainable for the long haul. No use going too fast and then you're not able to handle it, because the most important thing is to realize that these changes in our lifestyle are not just temporary. They're not just a quick diet or a quick fix. We need to learn to eat differently, think differently about how our Western medicine treats our diseases, learn how to treat ourselves with natural remedies such as homeopathy and other medicines from nature. And now more than ever, we need to learn how to detox to regain our health and clean out toxins, because toxins are poisons and they easily damage our body. Always better to prevent and take action before the disease comes. But in any case, you should never give up, and you need to know that your body's an amazing machine that knows how to heal itself. You just keep learning and sharing the show with everyone you know so you can help others help themselves. You know I have a huge goal by now. I want to heal millions, and I need to get this show out to that many just so they can learn the truth about the toxins in our world, the dangers of our foods today, and how medicines are actually harming us and not helping us. I feel it's my job to bring the truth to the forefront and teach you how the body really heals and how you can heal and feel great again. Hey, speaking of learning the truth, well, I decided to ask Martha Rosenberg back after our last interview because she's written about so many lies in the food and drug industry, and I wanted more. And I knew if I did, then you would too. And at the same time, I got an email from a listener named Tiffany, and Tiffany asked me if I would do a show on women's health regarding natural hormones and balancing. Well, I'll do another one if I need to, but I thought this would be a good starting point because so many people are confused about hormone replacement therapy and if they should do the estrogen that their doctors recommend or if they're dangerous, and then what about other natural options? Hint, hint, yes, there are other options. So I won't speak about it now, but I'll tell you more in the closing today after we hear what Martha tells us. And if that's not enough, I'll do more on this, I promise. And I don't want to leave you men out there feeling left out. So we're also going to be talking about the prostate health and the drugs they use and what you should be aware of. So there's something in today's show for everyone. I have a feeling I'll need to do a whole show though on hormone balancing. But what I want you guys to know today is the truth about the drugs that they're putting in men and women, and they're a complete fraud. Women's estrogen made from horses' urine gave many women cancer, and the medical world and the FDA did nothing except watch women die. Natural doctors and practitioners like myself could see the huge cancer wave they were creating. I personally lost many friends to the cancer from this kind of therapy, but sadly, they believe their doctors. Finally, after thousands of lost lives and years later, they finally decided that they'd had enough proof to know that these drugs were cancer-causing, and they stopped. But you're going to hear from Martha today that they're back. So you need to listen and you need to know what's going on. And one more thing, before we go speak to Martha Rosenberg, I want to dedicate this show today to Tiffany Pletz. She's an avid Vidal Speaks listener, and she was so generous and sent me a very gracious donation. And it's just a way for me to say thank you, Tiffany, because I want to put this show in your honor so you can know how filled of gratitude I am for your donation. Thank you so much for your generosity. It is so appreciated and needed. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so happy to hear you love the show and that it's helped you in your life. That alone makes me jump for joy. And since you asked me about hormones, I'm dedicating this one to you. Hope you enjoy it and you learn something. Okay, you guys, now let me tell you a little something about Martha Rosenberg because that's the routine, and then we'll go talk to her. Martha Rosenberg is a nationally recognized investigative health reporter and author. Rosenberg's food and drug exposé, Born with a Junk Food Deficiency, was praised by the Times of London, Public Library of Science, and Vice Media, and named part as the 2016 One Book, One Chicago program. Rosenberg has appeared on C-SPAN, National Public Radio, and lectured at the medical school and university levels. Martha Rosenberg is also an editorial cartoonist. Now, I told you last week about all the places that her articles are published. I'm not going to repeat them again. If you want to know more about her work, please go to my show notes because you're going to see the link to her Twitter and also the website where she posts most of her articles. She's an amazing writer, so please be sure to check out lots more articles than what we talk about today. Okay, now let's go speak to Martha. I think with this one, you're going to need a cup of chamomile tea in your hand while you listen because you need to help calm your nerves. But I think you're going to learn that her word is so research-based that she's going to be one of those sources you can count on for the truth. So try to relax, take a deep breath, try to de-stress because you're going to hear some shocking truths now. Okay, here we go. Hello, Martha. I had so much fun with you last time and last week and your conversation with me was so stimulating. I got to thinking, there's so much more we can talk about. And as you mentioned on the show, so I'm really happy to have you back because we want more from you. So thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Deborah. There is so much more to discuss, and so I'm really happy we're back together.
And part of both of our journeys is to tell people the truth. I mean, it's not just about educating them, but it's actually to really expose the lies that we're all being told. And that's what all your articles are about. So I'm so happy to have found you and met you, and you help my listeners learn some of these lies that are out there that many people believe that are costing them their own life. So I thought today a good topic would be hormone issues, like men's and women's hormone issues. Because when you think of hormone industries, you can think of so many things in the world, right? We can think of like environmental stuff. We can think of foods. So like dairy is always the first thing that comes to my mind. And I think people have no idea, how this is directly related to their hormonal health. But I just want to kind of give you the free ground to start where you want, because there's a lot of hormone disruptors.
Well, there's so much to say about hormones. And, Deborah, my orientation often is marketing because my background is marketing. So I'm very aware of what pharma does in terms of marketing, and also big food. But the marketing of the hormone replacement for women, and now for the testosterone boosters for men, for low T, in both cases, you do not want to do that if you're an older person trying to stay young. And they pretend that you're only getting old because you're losing your hormones. And in point of fact, it's such a lie. And in point of fact, you're losing your hormones because you're getting older. And with women, the hormone replacement, which I've written a lot in my book, was and is highly correlated with cancer and heart disease. But in men now, we're seeing the low T treatments, where they're taking the testosterone to stay young and thin and whatever, energetic. They're highly correlated with cancers, pre-existing dormant cancers that are activated by the hormones.
I know. And let's even take a step backward and let's get the listeners educated on like what even happens to get our hormones even disrupted, because part of the reason I wanted to title this show kind of how our environment and the food industry puts us in danger hormonally, but also how the hormone drug therapy kills us. Right. So there's two aspects here, right? We can start out even at a very young age, as we know today. We can have women and men in their 20s that are having hormone problems because there's lots of things in the world that interfere with our endocrine system, which is the system of our body that produces our hormones, our thyroid, our adrenals, and all our female and male hormones is all part of this endocrine system. And there are things that are endocrine disruptors, meaning that it's interfering with our endocrine system. So maybe let's start there. And what would you feel are some of the biggest ones out there, whether it's in food or the environment, however you want to start?
Well, the endocrine disruptors, as you say, they're chemicals that really wreak havoc on the hormone system. And they're pretty recent. I mean, I would say the last 20 or 30 years, they've become a real issue, whereas because of big chem, the chemical industry. But examples of the endocrine disruptors include parabens, which are often just fragrances that are unnecessarily put in products. Phthalates, I think that's how we pronounce it, which are correlated with are used in fire retarding. They're cans, food cans have endocrine disruptors. Plastics, BPA, bisphenol B, is a huge endocrine disruptor. So they're kind of, I would say to listeners who don't know about them, they're kind of like very different and in very different uses, but they all have the same effect of usually feminizing or estrogenizing people.
Yeah, that's why they're called xenoestrogens, meaning they're fake estrogens. So we take in these molecules that our bodies believe is an estrogen,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. It's a fake estrogen. And so it starts wreaking havoc because your body's trying to use it as an estrogen and it can't. And you're right about all these things. And the BPA, let's just even start with that. BPA, many people think, okay, if I just buy BPA-free plastic, then I'm good. But they've done studies. I watched a video and a documentary, and they've done studies that there's so many other molecules in plastic that are equally as hormonally disruptive as BPA, but all we ever hear about is BPA. So BPA-free, that's great. They got that out. But in general, get rid of plastic, because we don't need it anymore. And it is a huge endocrine disruptor, as you said. So that's a really important one. And we use plastic sometimes when we don't need to, because you could store your food in glass containers. You can get rid of your plastic. You don't need to have it in plastic anymore. There's plenty of containers that are glass now. And then you mentioned phthalates. And that's a big one too. I think, isn't that the one that's in perfumes?
Exactly. And when you see a cosmetic or a shampoo that says fragrance free, that means it's phthalate free, and that's good. We don't want the fragrance in there.
Yeah, there's a website. Do you know it? It's called EWG, environmentalworkinggroup.org. Do you know that site?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, you should check that site out and for all my listeners, they're going to learn about it because I'm going to interview the CEO of that company. But it's a company that you can go put your product in, like your shampoo or your hormone, or if you're looking for a sunscreen and you want to find one that doesn't have any damaging chemicals, you can go there and it'll tell you all the ingredients in there and it rates it, like how dangerous it is. It's really a great site. And I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of that company in the next week. So he's going to be on the show and we're going to talk a lot more about all these endocrine disruptors. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's excellent. That's just excellent. Now, if it were easy for people to see what's in their products, then, it hasn't been easy. And that's the clue. If people can just say, well, I'm going to take this product instead of this one because of what you learn on the internet.
Yeah. But, Martha, what's happened anymore? The internet's an amazing tool, but in a way, really, it's made it a lot more difficult than almost not knowing, because there's so much wrong information out there now that I think more people have the wrong idea than have learned to weed out the truths. Don't you agree?
Well, there's certainly a lot of unsubstantiated information. Certainly there's a lot of misinformation from big chem and big pharma and big food. But I always tell people, if it's a slick message, you're being duped.
Yeah, right. And then you mentioned flame retardants. This is a huge problem because they put it in everything, every towel you buy, every sheet you buy, every piece of clothing you buy, every piece of furniture you buy. And I know they've tested some people and our bodies are just full of this. And it's sad. I just saw, I think it was like a mom's group that got together because they wanted to get it out of the baby's sleepwear or bedding or something like this. And they finally got it passed to do that. So I don't know, but the oceans are filled with flame retardants. The oceans are filled with plastic. And so now that leads me to think of people are eating fish, and what's in our fish? Not only is it heavy metals filled with mercury from the coal industry spewing mercury in the air, and the levels of mercury in the ocean are just at an unbelievable high level. But what about the plastics in the ocean and in our fish? That's scary. You're eating a piece of fish and you're getting plastic now.
Well, you're absolutely right. The plastic in the fish, some of it, we have the huge plastic pollution in the oceans, but the fish, I guess, because they're lower on the food chain, they store so much negative. I don't eat fish. I'm vegan, but you really have to be careful. Do you remember years ago they talked about the mercury in the tuna?
Right. It's even on the cans, right? It's a warning on the cans now.
Right. And a lot of people, thought, well, that was then. It's better now. It's not better now. one thing that we've talked about last time, is the huge usage of antidepressants and psychoactive drugs, certainly in the U.S. and other developed countries, has also affected fish. And there's high levels in the fish of pharmaceutical drugs, in addition to the plastics and the mercury. And they did a study where fish were actually their behavior had actually changed from discharge from pharmaceutical factories of the different drugs. So there's also that. But
and didn't you say last time too that now there's like was it fish or was it some other ocean critter that now they're not female anymore? Some are female and male. Some are changing from male to female. I mean, I know stories of this. I know there's some frogs like this now. And
right, the intersex fish, I think they're mostly minnows, it is becoming a very well-documented phenomenon. It is absolutely correlated with endocrine disruptors because they're estrogenic. And it is just sad that what we've done, I mean, aside from dangers of eating them, what have we done to these species? The amphibians, like the frogs and salamanders, and now fish, are so estrogenized that they're intersex. And that is an absolute result of the endocrine disruptors. Another one that we should talk about, Deborah, is triclosan. Okay, and triclosan is put in, you would not believe how many things. Dish detergent, toothpaste. It is an endocrine disruptor. It's essentially a pesticide. And there was a big expose a few years ago about, is this in your toothpaste? Colgate Total had it in their toothpaste. And you would think that it would no longer be in there. What with the exposés, it's still in there.
Yeah, so and isn't this what's in the wipes when you wipe your hands for the, to be careful you don't get any germs kind of wipes?
Probably so.
I think so.
And anytime you see on a dish detergent or even a laundry detergent, antibiotic or
antibacterial,
right? That you don't want that. You don't want that, first of all, because triclosan is essentially a pesticide and is very highly correlated with what's happening to the fish. But secondly, when you overuse antibiotics for no reason, it's not even necessary because soap kills it, you produce the antibiotic resistance. So there's two reasons that those should never be sold. They shouldn't be in the products.
And look how much it's in our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's in our fish now. We put it in our toothpaste. We're putting in our hand creams, our hand soaps. And then in addition, last week you were telling us about all the antibiotics we're feeding the cows and the pigs for all this, disease prevention and for disease. Oh my gosh. No wonder we have a worry about superbugs, right?
Well, absolutely. Unnecessary antibiotics were put in personal care products for no other reason than money. The idea, the whole marketing basis is new and improved. Now in apricot color or whatever. Now, jumbo size. So a new aspect to a product always helps sell it. So adding the antibacterial was just a new feature to make money at the price of these health considerations.
Yeah, this is, that's why I wanted to do a show with this guy who invented this website, because it's all about chemicals and stuff. But people just need to realize it's not, look, chemicals and pesticides and all these things we're talking about, plastics and phthalates and all these things, they're all endocrine disruptors. They're all poisons. And that's a better way to think of it. It's pollution. It's poison. Whether we call it endocrine disruptors or hormone disruptors, that's what it does. That's the name, but it's poisons. And you don't need a hand soap that has a poison in it. There's plenty of natural hand soaps that are just all completely natural. There's shampoos. I love this brand called 100% Pure. Most of their stuff you could eat. It's so pure. It's made with plants. So it's like, I will only use, if you put something on your skin, they give you medications to put on your skin. So if the medications that go on your skin work, why the heck are you putting something on your skin with pollution and poisons in? So we just need to like simplify things. It's like the whole thing about climate change. I mean, it's just better to just say our pollution levels are so high that the world is crashing. We're overcooking our oceans and overcooking our earth, but it's because of all we've done, for greed and the pollution. So I just want people to think of the poisons. In this show, we're going to talk about the poisons that damage our hormonal system, but it's still, what we're talking about so far is pretty much kind of just the environmental stuff, which has gotten into our foods now, sadly, like our fish. God, you'd be crazy to eat fish anymore. I have a homeopathic student that works with dolphins and in San Diego, and I always would talk to her about it because I love animals so much. And, Martha, I was just born at the wrong time. I feel way too sensitive to be here on this earth because I love animals so much. And I have to hear stories like what you're saying about, what about the poor fish and the animals and our whales and our dolphins and all these poor critters that they're filled with plastics and they're filled with DDT and they're filled with mercury, and they didn't deserve it. They didn't do anything for this, and their lives aren't normal. And it's just horrible. So I hate even talking about it, but we need to educate people about this.
It's very, very sad. And like you say, the animals have rights unto themselves. It's not just a question of don't eat it because it's got. What about the animal and what we did to it? I completely agree with you. It's just the saddest thing. But, there's another aspect to antibiotics that we can talk about, which is that there's been studies now that if a mother took antibiotics when she was pregnant, that child will be very likely to be obese. So the obesity, which of course is also estrogen, but the antibiotics are very correlated with our obesity problem that we now see. So many young kids, who are overweight, and I believe it's because of the antibiotics in the meat. That, in other words, if they make the cattle and the pigs gain weight, why wouldn't they make people gain weight?
Of course, and when the other side to that is when you use an antibiotic, you're killing all bacteria, and we need our good bacteria. And they now know, because they've done studies on like thin people and obese people, and they have different gut bacteria. So if you've just wiped out all your bacteria and now you give birth to a baby, that baby's going to basically have the same bacteria, kind of mirror image of mom. So now they don't have the good bacteria, or maybe the bacteria that they need that the thin people have. And as you know, like there's a lot of different gut bacteria that's really necessary. We don't want to think of bacteria as always a bad thing, but the bad thing with an antibiotic is it's wiping it all out. And like you said, if they're giving it to the cows to make them gain weight, hello, what do you think it's going to do to us? Just like when they're what's that glyphosate, right? When they're putting that on, and what it does to the bugs is like eats their stomach away. Why do you think kids that when they eat these GMO foods, why do you think they get stomach issues? Because it's going to do the same to us. So we have to realize that we're not that different. And if it does something to an animal, it's going to do it to us. Another thing to speak about toxin-wise is the neonics that are killing all the bees.
Yes.
So what are they doing to us? If it's giving bees seizures and shakes and Parkinson's-like problems, then you don't think that's going to happen to us? I mean, look at the level of Parkinson's has gone up like so high. So, but we got to link it together. People have to realize it's all from toxins, pollution.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And I like the antibiotics make the animals gain weight by killing some of those intestinal friendly is it flora or fauna?
Flora, the
right,
friendly flora.
right, and that's how they work. And the theory is that that the food is not digested as quickly, and so they gain more weight on it, or it's not as efficient, and so that is a negative in terms of we want those. The gut is now considered to be the second brain. And this is only the last 5 years have they realized how important those bacteria are in our gut.
Yep, I know it's a big problem. It is a huge problem. But I do want to just say one more thing about the ocean animals. That student of mine that was doing the research, they would go out in a boat and they would study dolphins. And so it was over by Scripps over there. And I would say, like, do they ever test, like, take samples? And she said, oh yeah, we take these like plugs and then we test it in a lab. And she was telling me how they would take these plugs and they're just almost totally plastic. And this is from the dolphins. And I mean, this is what, if it's in, it's concentrated, as you said. Sadly, in fish, everything gets concentrated down. So the mercury that you see in the water of the ocean is 100,000 times more concentrated in our fish, right? So it's so dangerous to eat anything from the ocean. Even if you don't have any regard for the animal itself, it's really dangerous for your health. So that's...
I used to live in New Orleans on the Mississippi River, which of course is very, very polluted with chemicals. And they would have phenol spills and different chemicals because of the barges and the industry. And I can remember they would sell the catfish that came from the river, and they'd be in the grocery store, and you could look at them. They're just covered with tumors.
Wow.
And I could never understand who would eat these catfish because it wasn't like they were ill or sick internally. You could see on the external skin, and it was just shocking. And then they would have a little sign about "Don't eat this if you're pregnant," or if you're like a handwritten sign. But
oh, I know. That just blows me away. You can get a tuna can right now. It says if you're pregnant, eat this only once to 3 times a week or something. Like, what? It's okay to eat mercury 3 times a week, but not 5? I mean, come on, use your common sense. If you can't eat it when you're pregnant, why should you eat it when you're not pregnant? It's all marketing. It's a scam, and you guys need to learn the truth. That's what we're here to talk about this today. Now, what other foods, Martha? What other comes to mind? I mean, the next thing that comes to my mind is dairy, another corrupt industry, but look at the hormones in dairy.
Well, that's a great thing to talk about. The dairy industry, is rolling in chemicals and pesticides. People might remember when we had the bovine growth hormone, which was the first GMO that was approved in the U.S., and it was not a GMO that we were eating, but a GMO they were giving to the cattle or the cows to make them produce more milk. So that we kind of believe is not so much in use anymore because of the public backlash. But there's a huge amount of chemicals that are used in the dairy industry. Certainly, the vaccine, the veal, which hopefully none of your listeners would ever eat veal, but veal calves are among the most polluted with chemicals of all animals on the farm because they're given milk substitute that has a lot of antibiotics in it, probably to keep them from dying because they're already sick when they're born. But the dairy industry is just, it's steeped in chemicals that you don't want to drink milk for many reasons. The antibiotics are certainly a big part of the dairy industry. The milk itself is full of cholesterol and fat and pus from the poor cows who were, overproduced or they're constantly kept pregnant. And so the milk itself and the hormones, we talked last week about all the milk substitutes.
Right. I know. Now, look, when I always used to talk to people about milk, many people would say, well, I only drink raw milk. So I want to just address this for a minute, because even if it's your own cow and it's on a farm and it's raw milk, okay, it's still like Dr. Clapper, who I had on my show, who was raised on a dairy farm, says milk is food for baby calves because it's growth hormone for a baby cow to grow into a big cow. So it doesn't even matter. Let's not even count yet that we've totally toxified it with antibiotics and all the crap that we put in it. But let's just talk about milk as itself. The reason that a baby cow drinks it, they grow really big. They go from a baby cow to a giant big cow in 1 year. And that's what it's doing to people and humans, because we don't need the milk of a cow, because we don't need to grow like that. We use mother's milk, and when we're weaned from that, we don't need it anymore. But that IGF that's in that milk, that's a growth factor. That's a hormone. Those are hormones. And that's not counting any of the hormones we're injecting into the cows. In addition, I'm just talking about just raw milk. So these people that say, oh, well, raw milk, sure, maybe people are less allergic to raw milk, but that doesn't mean that you're not getting all the hormones, the natural hormones in milk, and all that growth factor that's making the baby cow grow into a giant cow. So to me, like, milk is one of the most dangerous foods. It's breast cancer causing, it's prostate cancer causing, and we're going to talk about that because that's what we're talking about today. These are your hormones. For men, it's prostates. For women, it's breast and uterine cancers. But now we take this milk that's made for baby cows, and now we've just completely botched this industry up by adding antibiotics and, as you said, all these hormones into them to make them grow faster, to keep them pregnant longer. These poor cows they have their baby, they're ripped away from them, and they get impregnated right again. I mean, it's a horrible industry. It's cruel, but it's so toxic for you. Milk is so high in protein. It's the protein that's cancer causing. There's so many bad things about milk, and there's so many other milk alternatives. So if you are a milk drinker, you need to really consider getting off milk to improve your health.
There's coconut, there's hemp, there's cashew, there's rice, there's soy.
There's so many. Almonds? Well, I mean, you can make it from anything, from flax now. Now I saw pea protein milk. There's flax milk. There's every milk out there you can dream of.
And they're good for you. So many of them. I mean, when you think of the benefits of those grains, they're not just good because they're not milk, but they're good unto themselves.
Right. And then you can make them at home so easily. A cup of seed and 3 cups of water in your blender and get a little bag. You've got your milk. It's easy, fast, delicious, better, no hormones. I mean, and something like flax, which we will talk about, because I want to talk about, because you told me you could talk about some foods that have natural estrogens and stuff.
Right.
Now, flax is a food to me that, like, a man with prostate cancer should be taking flax. I mean, we should take flax every day anyway, but it's a great hormone food to help balance our hormones. So we'll get there. But
right. I'd like to say one more thing about the dairy. The dairy industry has been helped very much by USDA and all the marketing, the mustaches, and the alleged bone health. And the best disproof of the dairy lies is other countries. There are entire nations that barely drink milk, that are not dairy. And these people are not all hunched over. They don't have thin bones. They're completely healthy. They're more healthy. When I grew up, a lot of the kids in my neighborhood were kosher. And they did not drink milk, at least at meals. I don't know if they ever drank milk. They would have pop, which of course we don't support pop. But I could never understand, if milk was so important, why were these kids not stunted in their growth? Or
yeah, right. Yeah.
And I can remember, the Gates Foundation, which is very pro-GMO, very pro-golden rice, and just everything that you and I talk about that's dangerous and bad. A few years ago, they decided to set up dairy plants in I think it was in India or maybe it was Africa, And it was like so counterintuitive. First of all, you don't even have refrigeration. You don't have, I mean, the carbon footprint of a dairy farm, the needs for drugs and refrigerating the product. But more importantly, many of the people in other nations, they have the lactose intolerance where they can't drink milk anyway.
Yeah. And most people that think they can, in my practice, that was one of the things I really tried to get people off, because they would say, no, I don't have a lactose intolerance, but then they would have horrible psoriasis or eczema. And I'd say, no, really, I probably could just get you off of dairy and not even give you a homeopathic remedy and you get better. And
Wow.
then, but it's amazing. That's one food that people are just absolutely like swear they'll never quit, because they're either just so addicted to it because of the casomorphines in it, but they'll just say, I'll never give up dairy, kind of like they almost get angry when you suggest it. So that's a food that is hard to get off of because of the cheese, but now with all the milks, like you said, and all the vegan cheeses that are so delicious, really, it's so much easier. Now, I know there's some people out there that maybe live in towns that don't have markets, but the internet, you can order from places, and you just have to do the best you can. But from a health perspective, I'm really wanting to share the dangers of the dairy industry, and I don't care if it's raw or toxic or organic or pasteurized or non-pasteurized.
Right.
Just the protein of it and the IGF factor of it is dangerous. But now, in addition to the whole dangerous, corrupt industry and all that they're putting in, now it's really poisonous. So that's
and like you say, the breast cancer and prostate cancer in the U.S. are very high compared with other countries.
For sure.
And I'm sure that this is a factor, though I have not seen really good research, because USDA and FDA very much support our food system. But I know, we talked last time about the beef that the U.S. produces. It's produced with huge amounts of hormones, and the European Union won't take our beef for that reason.
Yeah. And they know it because the studies show that it's cancer-causing, especially breast and prostate.
And so, that, again, right, the cancer rate in the U.S. is so high. I think, what do they say, 1 out of 8 women or something?
Yeah. Well,
and I always want to say, not vegans.
Right, exactly. But, the sad thing is the last that I have been researching and talking to people, they're saying it's like 1 in 3 now. It's going to be 1 in 2. I mean, it's going at an astronomical level. And you, like me, and anyone out there listening, you could count a lot of people on your hands right now who have cancer that personally, or a friend of a friend, or a brother of a friend, or a mother or a father, or a kid that was born, or it's crazy. It's so many people. So we need to put the power in our own hands, because what we're talking about today is one of the big reasons for cancer, because these endocrine disruptors, once you get messed up with your hormone system, it's such an important system, and the toxins just start flowing through your body, and you have to do something to detoxify these things out. And the first really big step to do is you need to change your diet and get out this animal hormonal toxic meat and dairy. So that's where we both stand. And I know our listeners have that loud and clear. Now let's talk about these issues. Let's start with the men, maybe, because obviously these kind of foods and endocrine disruptors from the environment because we're talking about how they affect our hormones and endocrine system. So it's going to manifest in a man through prostate cancer. Not let alone, that doesn't mean it can't give them other cancers, but we're focusing on hormones today.
Right.
And so when you get your hormones way out of balance and disrupted with chemicals, you're going to see often prostate cancer in men and female cancers. So let's talk about the prostate cancers. I mean, that whole industry is corrupt, and there's a lot of lies there. I want to just say a little bit about the screening. So the test that men are familiar with, it's called a PSA test. Mm-hmm. And this test is a really flawed test as a cancer screening, because it screens for, BP, BPH, which is benign prostate hypertrophy disease or whatever, meaning an enlarged prostate, right? So it screens for that, but it's not an accurate validation for prostate cancer or even any kind of early detection, because you can have a normal PSA, which let's say is under 4, and you could have prostate cancer. So this whole PSA thing is just a hype thing. And then the second thing is these biopsies. To me, that's scary. They go in and they biopsy the prostate. And when you start messing around with cancer cells that may be in there, just like a woman with a mammogram, and we did a whole show on thermography, when you start doing, smashing women's breasts that may have a cancer cell in there, you're mobilizing the cancer. To me, this is more dangerous than the test itself. So I just want to warn men out there that, there's a lot of fear mongering out there about a high PSA or, even to tell you that your PSA is normal and all is normal, because these aren't accurate measures. And I want to just say one more thing. There's a doctor, he's an MD, and he's actually a urological surgeon, and he writes a lot about prostate issues. And I just want to read something that he said. He says, "I'm sure there's some men out there who claim no complications following radical surgery done by robotics for their prostate cancer. However, in addition to shortening of the penis and a high rate of residual cancer in men after radical surgery by robotics, many men are often too embarrassed to admit to post-operative urinary leakage and issues of a sexual nature." And it says, "These quality of life issues clearly underscore the fact that surgery via robotics is no panacea for prostate cancer treatment. Surgeons, as well as marketers, continue to promote robotic technology for radical prostatectomy by a creative spin using terms like advanced, minimally invasive, and superior outcomes. And the sad truth is that prostate cancer surgery is solely responsible for the worldwide increase in urinary incontinence and impotence, but without the benefit of a curative life extension." How about that?
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So basically what he's saying is that these surgeries aren't extending anybody's life, but this is a part of the industry for men that they really market, because if they can scare a man into having prostate cancer and then they rush to go do a surgery or a biopsy, they'll say, "Oh, your PSA is going up. It was a 3 and now it's a 5. And next year it's a 6. Okay, well, we better do a biopsy." But now you're taking a risk to spread that cancer. And what I do want men to know is that a lot of the, more natural-minded MDs will tell you that most men will die with prostate cancer, not from it. And that's
right.
Really,
it won't be what kills him.
Right. Because it's a slow growing cancer, and most people have way more advanced heart disease and diabetes and all kinds of other health issues. And it's so slow growing that they could be 105, and yes, eventually it's going to grow and they'll die with it, but it's not going to be from that.
Well, and you're absolutely right. There's scare marketing. There's a lot of money in overtreatment, and certainly over cancer treatment. I was hoping we could also talk about the tamoxifen, which is sort of like the female version of overtreatment. But that is so scary that it doesn't lengthen their life. It will not be what kills them, but a lot of money is made through the scare tactics and the overtreatment.
Yeah. Oh, and when we get to talking about the women's issues, we'll definitely go here, because that is a fear-mongering drug for sure right there. But let's, so what do you think about the prostate drugs for men? You see on TV every 8 minutes about the prostate swelling drugs that we call the BPH, right? You see all the Viagra-like commercials. I mean, these men so young now are having a hard time with erections, but what they're never told is it's because they have already arteriosclerosis. And if your heart veins are clogged, then your arteries, other places are clogged, and you're not going to be able to get an erection. And they should be putting them on a plant-based diet that's low fat and cleaning out their arteries instead of putting them on Viagra, which is giving them an erection for 8 hours and causing a lot of other problems. So what do you know about this industry with the drugs?
Well, I have not written a lot about the men's drugs, but I do believe that as a public dialogue, that men's health issues like the ones you're talking about are really neglected in favor of women's. I mean, if you were a man and you've got urine leakage, I mean, that your quality of life is over, and we talk much less about the men, the men's problems and their overtreatment. And I certainly see the Viagra and the endocrine or the ED drugs probably, as you're saying, circumvent what's really wrong with their health. I mean, I can remember when like a man who was 60 or 70, would not necessarily expect to now have ED. So I mean, it's like something else might be going on.
I know. Now they're saying it's like 1 in 3 or 4 men in their late 20s are taking these drugs or more. I lost track of it, but it's a very high percentage of men that now take these drugs to help for their erections. And then the other thing, Martha's, look around. I mean, men have boobs now. This is estrogen, I mean, even when they're working out and fit, men have breasts now, and men's breast cancer has risen.
Yeah.
It's a problem because of the same reason for women. Imagine the amount of estrogen that a man must have to get breast cancer.
Well, again, the first thing that anybody who's listening or wants to remove their risks or lower their risks can do is no more animal products, no more dairy, no more meat. A big step forward.
Mm-hmm. And then, we can talk about once they remove those, then maybe let's talk about the women. And then once we do that, we'll talk about foods they can eat and things they can do. Okay.
Sure.
So let's talk about, and maybe leading into the women thing, one thing I do want to say while it's on my mind, because it makes me think a lot about this whole prostate issue with men and like how great this robotic surgery is now. It's like cutting edge. I know so many men that have had it, and I know they have problems with leakage, but like they said, a lot of them aren't going to admit that. But one thing that's really a problem in our entire medical system is that the way that we report our stats is so false and so falsified. It is so skewed, the results of our statistics, that it's an outright lie. They don't even come close to representing the true statistic of how safe a drug is, or how safe a surgery is, or how much having a surgery has improved that condition, or how much taking that drug has improved a condition. You can't even believe any of the stats. They're just wrong. The cancer industry is an amazing example here, because they'll tell you that chemotherapy for your kind of cancer has a 75% of recovery when they're measuring people that have stage 0. So if a woman has breast cancer stage 4 and her doctor fearmongers her into doing chemo and and they tell her that if she does it right away, immediately, chemotherapy and radiation, she has a 75% chance to beat this cancer. The truth is that they've put in that category all the women that have stage 0. Stage 0 means you don't even have an active cancer. You just may have the gene, or you may have, like a fibrotic cyst, and you're in stage 0. So all those women that are in that category with the stage 4 woman. But if you were to go on your own and do the statistic, and this applies for men with prostate cancer, and you go on your own and you say, okay, well, I'm at stage 4. How many women, what is the rate of recovery with women in stage 4 doing chemo and radiation? It's like 0.04 or something like this. It's just so skewed. I've done shows on this. And it's so wrong. So for the men out there, I hate to always say this over and over again, because doctors can mean well. They could have become a doctor because they want to help you and they want to heal. And I'm not saying doctors are bad people, but medicine in our country has made doctors kind of drug pushers. And so if you don't look out for yourself, what your doctor tells you is maybe, meant to help you because he cares, but it actually is killing you in the end. So you have to put the responsibility in your own hands. And I want you guys all to know that, so that you can go, question things and not just be the little, puppet that goes and does everything they tell you to do.
Well, and you say the statistics. Well, the cancer industry is very profitable and it's very aggressive. And we talked, or you just mentioned about the stage 0, the DC, the ductal carcinoma in situ, which is a stage 0. And what if women are told they have that from their mammogram, they're going to have a panic attack and they're going to want to go, treat it. And I think a huge percentage of that will just go away and just not need to be treated.
Time to take your break and walk around. And while you do that, I want to say thank you one more time to Tiffany Pletz. Tiffany, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your donation. That was so generous, and I so appreciate that. The money will go to good use because I spend it all out of my own pocket to edit the show and do all the stuff, the software, the everything, and it's a lot of work. So I'm truly grateful for your help. I really, really appreciate that. And I hope that this episode answered some of your questions about hormones, and you can stay tuned for that detox I was talking about, okay? Then the other thing I want to tell you guys is that I just learned that you can listen to a podcast and not subscribe. And I didn't really think about that because I usually just subscribe. But if you don't subscribe, then it doesn't really help me out. So please go to iTunes on your phone or on your computer and just hit that subscribe button. And I always beg you guys for reviews, to use the Amazon banner. I know it's a lot of work and a huge inconvenience, but if you share the show, you leave a review, you subscribe, then I'm going to love you forever, right? Actually, I hope you guys know that my true goal is to help as many people as I can. I'm not going to stop till I can help millions. This is my life work. I got to keep it going. So you guys got to pass it on. You got to be the healers. You have to help your family and your friends and all the people that are sick around you. The world is sick and we need to do our part. And we got to all help each other. So that's my main reason to ask you to subscribe or to download or to do a review, because I just want to make sure that the word gets out and this is a movement so that we can all become healthier. Okay, enough. Now let's get back to the show. Right. And sadly now, especially after Angela Jolie came out and cut off her breast because she had the gene, a bunch of women went and did that. And many people in stage 0 are having a radical mastectomy, and it's like, what? I mean, it's sad, but I get it, and I know how scary that can be, and that idea of getting cancer, and if I could do something now, I'm willing to lose my breast to do it. I totally get it, but what I want you to realize is that you have the power, you don't have to have a gene turn on if you live a good, healthy lifestyle, if you eat a plant-based diet, if you consume, as few possible chemicals by eating organic and healthy, clean foods as best as you can. Some of these environmental chemicals and pesticides that we're talking about today, you can't avoid heavy metals. We don't even have a heavy metal certification, but you do your best in life. And then you do everything you can to detox your body. And that's what I'm always helping my listeners out there, because we have to learn how to get some of these out of our systems if we want to live healthier lives.
Well, and one person I know who was given the stage 0 diagnosis, then they wanted to put her on tamoxifen. And I always tell people that tamoxifen is made by AstraZeneca, who's a pesticide maker, and it's like one atom or one electron away from like a pesticide.
I know. That's why I can't support the Pink Ribbon campaign. Look, I'm an LPGA player. I played on the tour for 11 years. I lost 8 of my friends out there to breast cancer, and I know, I honor every woman out there. I've lost a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that have breast cancer, and I totally respect them. And I want it like that day or that week or that month of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I give them praise and encouragement, but I'm not gonna fall for that campaign by AstraZeneca, because that's supporting that company and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that the statistics are wrong. It's more killing people than helping people. And so I just say to women, like, this is the month that we should all honor all breast cancer survivors or breast cancer, diagnoses that are recently. But, also, like, let's, help them, give them education about what they can do and how to change their diet and how to beat this thing and how to help other people from a grassroots level. So that's what I try to do. But AstraZeneca, absolutely right. How can a chemical industry also be allowed to have a drug?
Right. And I remember one year Kentucky Fried Chicken added a pink ribbon to their bucket of chicken. I mean, what? We know that breast cancer is highly correlated with obesity and fatness.
Right.
And the wrong foods. The fatter you are, the more at risk of breast cancer, and the bad foods. So there's such hypocrisy in the movement. The pink ribbon, as you say, the excess surgery, and not looking at diet and lifestyle and toxic things that we're ingesting.
Yeah. And let's not even go as far as a woman having hormonal problems that lead, let's say, to breast cancer. Let's just talk about, let's say you're one of those women out there that are just having difficult symptoms in your menopause, like tons of hot flashes, or you can't sleep at night, or migraines, or there's so many menopausal symptoms. But I mean, this is already a sign that your endocrine system is struggling and out of balance. So what about these women, Martha?
Yeah. Well, I've written a lot in my book, and I'm going to just give the title in case anybody wants to read more about the food and drugs. The book is called Born with a Junk Food Deficiency. It's like a joke, and you can get it from Random House or on Amazon. But I talk a lot in the book about the hormone replacement therapy scam, which for many years, starting from the 40s until I think it was 2003, it told every woman when you reach 50 or maybe even younger, you need to inject yourself or you need to take pills made of mare urine, Premarin.
Yeah,
and
Premarin.
The idea was that, and it was a very sexist campaign, because the idea was if you're not cute or pretty anymore, then the husband won't like you, so your value as a woman is gone. There was one ad that I have in the book, I recopied it, that says you've outlived your ovaries. So it's almost like it's sexist and ageist.
Oh,
But
that's terrible.
Just terrible ads against women. Implying that your fertility or your hormone level was your fate and your fortune. And so for years and years, women, menopause was made into a nightmare by the male practitioners from, Pharma funded, who said, you'll go crazy. They actually, and I'm not making this up, Deborah, they actually gave shock therapy, electrocompulsive therapy for menopause.
Oh my God. I mean, I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me, because first of all, most, doctors, many of these male doctors that are seeing women, and they're telling them, oh, you should get a hysterectomy, and we're going to remove your ovaries, and we just put you on hormone replacement therapy. Right. No big deal. You feel like saying, yeah, well, how about if I remove your testicles and I remove your penis? And, because like they've never experienced hot flashes or hormonal imbalance on the same level as a woman. And it's so sad, because because there's so many other things you can do first. And so women get feared into doing this, and because
Right.
they're afraid they're going to get the cancer. So they go have a full hysterectomy, and now they're doing ones where at least they're leaving the ovaries in, many doctors, but still, like, you're exactly right. These women that are having tons of hormonal symptoms. I mean, I can't even think of someone who's been a vegan a fairly long time or even few years. I don't think I know anybody that had menopausal symptoms that's a vegan.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the result of, there's two issues. One is that your health or lifestyle was maybe too toxic, but the medicine was very male dominated, and it was very nice happy, and like you say, let's just take out your uterus. You don't need it. I mean, that is so male. That's sexist, is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I know, and sometimes we want to think we've come a long way and we've changed, but sadly, in a lot of eras, we're going back to that kind of thinking. So that's why we just need to know what to do ourselves. But it is true, Martha, what you're saying, though, about all this menopause stuff, because women even walk around saying, well, yeah, I forget everything, but then I'm menopausal, because it's like being programmed into our mind. And I would always say, no, just because you're 55 or 60 or in menopause doesn't mean you need a bad memory, please. That's an excuse. Or just because you're older doesn't give you a right to forget things or to not have the energy, or that's what they want you to believe.
Right. And so, I studied this for many years, the hormone replacement therapy made of mare urine, and we could talk about the cruelty to animals, but the cruelty to women was also a big factor. And what they discovered in 2003 was this so-called panacea for women who were getting older actually caused exactly what it was supposed to treat. And what I mean by that is it didn't just cause cancer, which the hormone replacement therapy did, and heart conditions, but it also caused dementia. It also caused lung cancer. I mean, all the things we worry about when we get older were actually caused by the
treatment.
Hormone, right.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered why there haven't been more lawsuits about that, because it didn't just not work. It actually caused aging. It caused, the dementia was part of the Women's Health Initiative, and it was taking the hormones, and the mare urine was highly correlated with the dementia, which we try to prevent by taking drugs to, it was counterintuitive.
Yeah, but if they can get you demented, then they can sell you their dementia drugs, right? And that's a whole nother industry. So this is the problem,
Yeah.
They have the chemicals like AstraZeneca. They produce these chemicals that give you the cancer. So then you can support their other industry, which is the drugs to treat your cancer. And then that can give you dementia. And then they own part of the dementia drugs. And I'm just saying, it's never ending. It's so corrupt.
No, it is. It's a web of evilness.
Yeah.
But one thing that was so interesting in 2003 was when women en masse ceased to take the hormone replacement therapy, and the breast cancer rates dropped precipitously in the U.S. and everyone realized, who was in public health and even medical practitioners, that it dropped because the drugs were causing the cancer.
Yeah, right. And there are doctors out there, natural doctors, MDs and naturopaths and homeopaths. And I mean, I saw it in my practice. I saw women on it. And I kept saying they're creating a huge wave of cancer. We're going to see more breast cancer and uterine cancers than we've ever seen before, with how many people are being told to go on Premarin and these kind of chemical drugs, estrogen drugs. And Dr. Wright, who's kind of the grandfather, he's in the Seattle, and he wrote a lot about women's hormone health, how to do it naturally. He would always say they're causing a huge wave of women's cancers. So definitely that was predicted by the many people in the natural field. They could see what was happening, but they still let it go on. And like you said, you wonder why they're not sued. I think they're not sued because so many of these these producers they get off scot-free because somehow in a tax bill in Senate, night before at midnight, they put in one sentence that says you can't sue any of the vaccine making industries or any of this drug industries. And then it passes because they all voted what they thought was the tax bill, and they didn't read the 400-page document at midnight that then they slipped in, right? So our politics is corrupt, and it lets some of these people off, even though it's actually killing people. But if we all take our responsibility and just don't blame, the industry or the doctors or the drugs, we need to blame ourselves for not knowing. And today's a day and age that you got to learn as much as you can about what you put in your body and not just listen to somebody to do it.
Well, and the main thing, disease mongering, which has been helped by the direct-to-consumer ads on TV, it's based on raising doubts, making you afraid of your own health and your own well-being. And it's very much pathologized getting old, okay? And with women, certainly this hormone replacement. But with men, the low T is very parallel. And in both cases, with the women and the men, these hormone supplementations from synthetic drugs cause, or they activate hormone-based cancers, hormone-driven cancers. So in both cases, if you had some innocuous benign cancer in your body, you put the hormone in there, it's going to activate. And so there's reasons why somebody in their 50s or older does not want estrogen or testosterone put in their body.
Yeah, and like you said, then on top of that, they say, okay, it's an estrogen-based cancer, so we need to, you can't do anything like that yet they're producing all these estrogen chemicals and we're breathing them every day. But anyway, then in addition, they say, okay, we need to put you on tamoxifen. And so what happens then, they claim them cured of breast cancer and then they die of ovarian cancer because tamoxifen causes ovarian cancer. But then guess what? In the statistics, they get to count that person as cured from breast cancer. Because they died of ovarian, right? The side effects of tamoxifen
are underreported, and maybe in our next show we can talk about the side effects of eating eggs, which also causes ovarian cancer. But then,
let's do that. That's a good industry to talk about, though, because that's another one that, I know there's so much. But in general, what about these other drugs? What about osteoporosis, which is another sign of women in menopause or aging women, right? What about those drugs that eat your jaw out?
Well, what Big Pharma did is when hormone replacement therapy crashed and burned, they realized that women that it did have one good action, the hormone replacement therapy, which was it did keep the bone strong. I will say that because it's medically true. And so Big Pharma realized that there was now a market for keeping bones strong, in women who were postmenopause. And they began launching Fosamax, Boniva, and I think it's Actonel,
right,
which are called bisphosphonates. And these bone drugs, even before they were aggressively marketed, the medical literature talked about how their method of action was askew. It wasn't going to help because instead of strengthening the bone, what they did is they just stopped bone renewal, and bones always renew. That's how they stay healthy. And so that the medical literature predicted that bones in the women taking these bisphosphonates would become petrified, just like they would become brittle and petrified and fracture, which is exactly what happened. So these bone drugs literally caused the fractures they were marketed to prevent. In addition to that, I mean, it's really a war on women. Stuff like that is a war on women because there's a vanity marketing. It's like, don't become old and hunched over and you aren't cute anymore,
Yeah.
And so,
I know. Believe me, I know, because I live in LA and you see, not only do you see all those same ads that you see there, but it's also the looks. The looks are such a big thing. You can have a man that's a news anchor that's old and wrinkled and gray, and he's distinguished. And as soon as a woman gets wrinkled and old or has gray hair, she's not on TV anymore. You know what I mean? It's the whole image thing we portray for women, that getting old, you can't be natural and old. That's not good. You have to stay young and beautiful and 23, including your hormones.
Well, exactly. And it's just so sad, that you're not allowed to be an elder statesman if you're a woman. When you think of, Mary Tyler Moore or Jane Fonda, and, they weren't allowed to look as old as they were. They knew a lot, but it's so sexist, the way we look. So the bone drugs were very much, they were marketed by, pretty movie stars like Sally Field, and some others that, be like me, take this drug. And in addition to causing the fractures that they were supposed to prevent, they had another terrible side effect that the medical literature predicted. And again, people could have predicted this, that they cause osteonecrosis of the jaw, ONJ. And the reason the jaw, it's also related to the lack of turnover of bone, but the jaw bone turns over faster than other parts of the body. So that's why it was targeted in the jaw. And what would happen, and dentists were reporting this years before the drugs became popular, that they would extract a teeth or do some invasive procedure, and the person's jaw would not heal. It just would not heal because the bone turnover mechanism had been shut down. And women actually lost their jaws through this unethical advertising of a drug they knew. And in the 70s, Merck was the first producer of these bisphosphonates, Fosamax. In the 70s, they knew the jaw side effects. They knew from their rat studies. I have the documents given to me by lawyers. So it's like they knew, and they're like, well, let's just sell this drug, and when the side effects emerge, we'll pay off the lawsuits, and we still will have made money on Wall Street.
Yeah, that's always the bottom line. Do we still make a profit when we pay off the lawsuits of all the people who have died or been injured by these drugs? Yep, we still make a profit. Okay, let's go forward with it. I mean, it's at our own life cost, We have to know this stuff.
But on a lighter note, I mean, it's just sickening stuff that happens to patients. But on a lighter note, there are really good foods that we can eat for, hormone balance and bone strength. And we should probably let listeners know that there's alternatives to these drugs.
And, now we can get to the positive part of the show, all this negative stuff. But it's a negative world, and you have to understand first the damages out there. It's not just to focus on being negative. I'm a very optimistic person, as much as can be possible in today's toxic world.
Right.
That I have to say that sentence, because there's some days I feel it's completely hopeless. No doubt, when I hear, more coal mines going up, all the EPA dissolving all the things more we're doing and dumping allowed. Sometimes it's easy to feel hopeless, but we have to remain positive and do the best we can. So let's talk about now some of the things, like either supplements or foods or things that we can do as women and men to keep our hormone system balanced. So why don't you start with some of the foods?
Well, one thing I'll say even before the foods is I really recommend to women who are getting older, carry heavy things. I mean, weight-bearing exercise and weight-bearing lifestyles where you carry things is how our ancestors never got brittle or thin bones. There's nothing like, they say that women who are heavier have less osteoporosis because they carry their own bodies when they walk, so weight bearing is just a huge factor. I always tell my friends, don't use those wheelie luggages, on the wheels. Carry it, because carrying and, working out with weights is very, very good for bones. So that's the exercise part.
And before that, I'd even say get off of milk first, because if you're eating milk, you will have osteoporosis, especially as a woman. So you need to first get off of that.
You're absolutely right. And another thing that deceives people is the meat industry has conveyed this idea of protein, protein, protein. We don't, if we have excessive protein in our diets, which many Americans do because they've been deceived, it will leach out your calcium and make your bones thin.
Right.
So the excessive protein turns it's ash. It turns acidic, and you lose bone strength. So definitely get off meat and excessive protein. But so the exercise, you get off dairy, and then as far as the foods, and I think you know a lot about this too, Deborah. But there's certainly many plant. Soy is certainly a source of estrogen.
Mm-hmm. Natural estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Natural estrogen, that's a good one to take. Many people who drink soy milk or take soy eliminate their hot flashes. You can even, if they don't want to take it or eat it, they can take a pill with the soy, but I recommend eating it because I always believe in the whole food. But anyway, many women have eliminated all of their menopausal symptoms just by taking soy. So that's a good one to mention. What else?
Well, I believe that sesame and certainly flax, as we talked about, are two very strong. Sunflower seeds, I mean, there must be ways to eat them besides just the seeds, but sunflower is a huge source of estrogen. I mean, it unbelievably strong estrogen, and you don't read that too much in the literature, but sesame and sunflower seeds and soy and flax are very good sources.
I just want to say something like sesame. I've been using a lot of the black sesames because I think the darker fruit or the darker color, anything always it has those stronger, antioxidant properties. So black sesame is really good. And another thing that's important is when you do flax, it's really important. You can throw them in their whole, but you really get the value of flax when it's ground. So what I want to say is I don't recommend that you buy ground flax because even if it's sitting in a bag that's marketed that it's fresh for 8 more months, when you grind flax and you put it in a bag and it's packaged, you are going to have pretty much rancid flax. So it's dangerous in that form. So what I recommend is that people buy the whole flaxseed and then one of those little coffee grinders that you can just throw a tablespoon in there, just have it on your counter in your cupboard, take it out, plug it in, throw your tablespoon, grind it up, dump it on your cereal, however you want to do it. If you want to make flax milk, whatever, but flaxseed is really easy because you can add it, even in baking, you can add it in cookies, a tablespoon, you can add it in so many things on your oatmeal and your cereal, there's fruit on top of your fruit bowl. I mean, lots of things, but flax is really helpful for women and men. Men, I want you to know that there's a lot of studies done with prostate inflammation, prostate cancer, prostate swelling. Flax, but grind it up. Just grind it up and do 2 tablespoons every day somehow on your food. It will be life-changing as long as you're not eating dairy, because dairy is like, the antithesis of it. So, and the other thing you mentioned was sunflower seeds. Yeah, you can eat them by yourself, but I throw them in my salads a lot, and I make I do like this beet apple salad where I shred the beet and then and it's just raw, the beet. I don't cook it, but then I shred the apple and then I toast in a dry roasted in a pan. I just toast the sunflowers and throw them in the salad and squeeze lemon juice over. It's delicious. And you can get, and I put a lot of sunflowers in them because I like the crunch. I like the flavor of them, but you can make sunflower milk. I mean, there's so many things, you can throw them in your cookies. If you're doing Christmas cookies, throw them in your granola. You just have to find ways to incorporate these foods into your daily life. And then it's second nature.
Well, and there's some other herbs that have a lot of good hormone in them. In a balanced format. And of course, all of these things we're talking about, the sunflower seeds and, soy, they need to be organic.
Yes, especially soy. Please do not ever eat soy if it's not organic.
No Roundup Ready soybeans. But another herb that I really recommend to anyone any female, I don't know about men, but is the dong quai. Dong quai is a very balancing estrogen-like plant, but it's just related to celery, and it's not, it's a food, and then fennel, the herb or the spice, fennel, people think of it as kind of a flavoring, but fennel has very good hormones in there. And there's also a drug called Vitex and one called I can't even pronounce it, Damiana. And both of those you can find in teas, and they very, very much balance out the hormones. And they're just plants.
Right. And Vitex is chasteberry, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so chasteberry. So that is an herb everyone out there needs to know about, especially women. Like you said, I know we have a homeopathic remedy of it, and I've given that remedy to men also. But as a tea, I'm not 100% sure in for men, but I know for women for sure, like anybody that's having any kind of hormonal issues, PMSing, mood problems, hemorrhaging, anything. And what's good about Vitex or chasteberry is that it's kind of brings you into balance. So if you have too much of something or too little, it's an herb that balances it out. It's not just if you had too high of an estrogen or too low. Some of these herbs like this, that when in adrenal form, they're called like adaptogenics, because you could be low adrenals and you can have high adrenals, and you want an herb that brings it back into balance. This is what chasteberry. So chasteberry is a great herb. You can read all about it. There's lots of great studies out there with it. And another one of my favorites, that's interesting about fennel. I did not know that. I know fennel more as a great digestive aid. So you get a double whammy there when you can help your hormones. Another one that I know of is raspberry leaf tea. Have you heard of that one?
I have. I've heard of it for digestive, but not for hormones. So that's good to know.
Yeah, it's very good for women's hormone balancing, and it's a very big adrenal balancing, which we all need. And then the other thing I want to tell people out there would be maca powder. Now, this would be men or women.
Yes.
But maca powder is wonderful, and there's lots of studies out there that have showed that women who have taken, I think it was like 3 tablespoons of maca powder a day, equals the benefits of women doing any kind of prescription hormone balancing or even bioidentical balancing, that just maca powder alone has done equal or surpassed the work of bioidentical hormones or chemical hormones by prescription. So you need to learn about maca powder, because there's different kinds. There's red maca powder, which I think is the stronger one. And I'll put the link in my show notes, but there's a kind of maca powder that I recommend to people. And I think it's called something like the Real Maca Powder. That's actually the name of the company and the website, and they have a lot of research on that. But if you have digestive issues, then you probably want to get the one that's gelatinized, because there's maca powder and then there's gelatinized maca powder. And if you get the Real Maca Powder that's not gelatinized, it can give some people like a little bit of crampy or stomach issues. So then they do better on the other one, but it doesn't work as fast, but it still works.
Okay, but it's not gelatin, it's vegan?
It's still vegan. I need to look at this company, because I only know this company and I use the non-gelatinized one. So, okay. But look and do your research, and always look for that, because when they say gelatinized, I think it's just a process that they do where they heat it. I don't think it has anything to do with adding gelatin. But anyways, I think it's a heating.
Maca is, and that has explained, I think it's from South America. Am I right on that? A plant that, and that explains like the health of many women in like poorer countries. Yeah. It's because they're eating this good stuff. Now, do you know anything about suma? Because I have read about suma as beneficial, but I don't know if it's a hormone.
Yeah, I haven't used that one enough. I've read about it. I don't know enough to speak about that, but I'll do some research on that. And the other one that I know is good is cacao, raw cacao. Now, in the areas where the women harvested all the cacao from the trees. I mean, they had healthy endocrine systems. Now, cacao has a lot of other benefits, like on the heart and the circulation and a lot of other things. And maybe that's why women crave chocolate so much. Some people say it's the magnesium in the chocolate, right? That's so important. And we're also magnesium deficient. A lot of people believe that it's the magnesium we're craving, but it really could be the cacao, because there's a lot of cacao. It can be medicine, but some people, the darker you can get it, the healthier it is. Or throw some cacao nibs in your granola or in your smoothie or on top of your cereal or your frozen banana ice cream, so you can throw cacao nibs on that, and then you get it that way, which is the healthier version of it, because it's a little bit more bitter and not with all the sugar. But look, there right there, what we've talked about. There's a lot of foods that people can add to their diet just to balance their hormones out.
Absolutely. And of course, we didn't even mention yams.
Oh, yams. Geez, that should have been the first one we talked about, right?
So, there's so many ways. I just tell people, if you eat well, and it's not easy, I admit, it's not easy. You have to really make a commitment and go to the good stores, but you don't need to take pills.
Right. And the thing is now, what has made it easy is there's places that do home delivery now, like Thrift Market. I think it's thriftmarket.com or thrivemarket.com. That's I think it's for like $5 a month. You become a member and you can order everything, and they have lots of healthy things. They support the healthy industry. They have a whole organic section, vegan section. So you can belong to something like that and they can ship it to you. Or now, with Amazon buying Whole Foods, they've now began to lower their prices and they're doing this delivery service. I think it's within an hour. So many of you out there that live in a big city are close to Whole Foods, you can do that. So there's lots of options now how to get healthier foods.
No, you're right.
We couldn't do it before,
And one more thing I'll just say that isn't necessarily women's medicine or hormone, but yucca is a wonderful, wonderful painkiller. It's a plant, they make capsules of the plant, but it's really preferable to a Tylenol. If you have the flu or you've got aches and pains, the yucca is a very, or even arthritis, is a very underreported effective painkiller that your listeners should know about it, because it's just a food. Yucca.
Wow, I didn't know that. I eat yucca. I love yucca. Is it called something else, or do you just look up yucca capsules?
Just look up yucca capsules. They're vegetarian capsules. I've gotten them at Whole Foods or the different outlets. But if you have a headache or any pain, you don't want to take Tylenol, which is harmful to the liver at higher doses.
Right. But sometimes it's not that high of a dose. There's many people who have dropped dead and they wonder if it was from the Tylenol they took the day before. So Tylenol is damaging to the liver, and there's many, many other things. Even MSM is a great pain thing. There's turmeric, there's all kinds of ginger, there's all kinds of things that can help pain. So please don't grab your Tylenol first. Right? That's
no, you don't want to do that. But no, I'm so glad that you know about these herbs, because they're very underreported, because Pharma doesn't make money on them. And once Pharma makes money on them, then you hear about them. Like they'll market a niacin, and then suddenly niacin is a wonder drug because they're making money off it,
Right. Well, they're trying like crazy to find a way, like curcumin and from turmeric, hey, if we can make it into a chemical, then we can patent it and then we can make billions off it. But, you can go grow it and put the root and juice it and have it yourself for cheap. So don't believe you need some chemical version of the plant when you can just go get the plant yourself. And hopefully we continue to be able to buy these things ourselves, because that's always my worry, that they're going to stop our freedom from being able to get these things, and then we lose control of our own health. But just remember, food is medicine, right? That's what Hippocrates said, and it's so true. We need to eat. I always say, if you asked yourself before you put every bite of food into your mouth, is what I'm putting in my mouth right now going to help every cell in my body and help regenerate and balance every cell in my body? And if you answer yes, then eat it. If you would say no, then you probably know you're not eating something too healthy. And if every time you put that pill on your tongue to swallow, you ask, is this helping my disease, get rid of my disease? Is this just treating a symptom, suppressing a symptom and causing maybe other problems? And if you answer yes to that question, then it's probably not the right therapy for you. So we just need to try to go to the root cause, and it starts with diet. And it really is.
It really does. And I'm sure you've noticed this, when the food is nutritious and free of chemicals, it also tastes better.
Yeah, for sure. But one of the things is we have to realize that there's people out there listening that are in every stage of health. Look, prevention is what they say, prevention is worth a pound of cure, but prevention is so much easier than now reversing a disease or a chronic disease that has layers of problems on it. But I know some of you out there currently have cancer or been recently diagnosed with cancer, or your husband has it, or your partner has it, or so no matter where you are, the body's an amazing machine, and you just start with your food, start with your diet. Maybe you're on a bunch of drugs right now and you want to come off, and you can't just stop them all. But start with your diet and work with a homeopath or a naturopath and slowly come off of these things and learn the foods that can replace some of those things. So it's just like, take the first step. We can't all just overnight, be vegan and have no drugs in our system, because there's people that have serious things that they need to take their time to come off of. So take your time in that regard and be safe. And if it's not something that doesn't need time, then get off right now, because these things are harming you, not helping you. And it's not doing anything like these opioids for pain. They're not doing a single thing to help you cure the problem. They're only treating the pain. And if you just want a symptomatic pain relief, why not do it with a plant? Then that isn't addictive, right? But what you really want to do is look deeper and find out the cause of the pain and the cause of the disease, and then try to treat that so you can be disease-free. But man, I'll tell you, it's not easy, Martha, with the way our environment is and all these chemicals and things we're around that you were talking about earlier, all these endocrine disruptors and all these harmful things in our food and all the heavy metals. We have to work really hard, really, really hard to detox.
It's not easy, and it's okay to be a little bit skeptical and suspicious. People can call you a nut, but you're actually being self-protective, because there are many harmful, unlabeled things in our foods and in our environment. And it's not easy, and you have to be skeptical.
You do. That's great advice. And we're going to end on that one. But before we go, I want you to remind people where they can read more of your articles, where they can follow you, and tell them your book again, so that they know how to search you.
Well, thank you, Deborah. So my daily blogs and most things that I write are found on opednews.com. It's OPED news.com, like op-eds, like opinion pieces. And the book, which covers a lot of these things we've talked about, is called Born with a Junk Food Deficiency. And it's a joke. The idea is that they tell us we have a deficiency of their products. And it's found, can find it on Amazon. And you can buy the ebook, or the regular book is not expensive, and they'll ship it out right away. But it's Born with a Junk Food Deficiency.
Great title. I love that title.
Thank
you. Know. That's what I was like, I got to talk to this lady. That's so cool. Good. Any other things you want to say before you go?
No, I think that next time that we talk on your show, we should talk about statins and the whole idea of good fat, bad fat. But I think we covered a lot.
I think that'll be a great one. Let's say this. We'll meet again in the new year. How's that?
Oh, wonderful. And thank you so much for the good work you're doing, exposing all this stuff and helping people get healthy. It's great.
Oh, you too. I only worried we're going to get knocked off.
Yeah, really. I worry about that.
I know, but what can you do? I've had a couple of friends say, "Are you worried?" I mean, you talk about, you expose all these things, but my job here is to tell the truth and to help people heal. I want to help millions of people get well and I want to save millions and millions and millions of animals from living horrible lives and being eaten just for food when it's actually they're the ones that are killing the people. So that's my goal here. And however it ends, but I'm not going to stop doing the work. And I know you're not either because you've been doing it a long time. So thank you for your work.
Well, thank you, Deborah, and I'll talk to you in 2018, and be well and eat well, and we'll talk in a few months.
Okay, sounds good. And you have a wonderful plant-based vegan holiday.
Thank you. I will. You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Martha, you guys. This one was really fun for me because it was easy and I've studied this stuff for so many years. You know, being a pro golfer and getting sick from all those pesticides on the courses was my first step to the 25 plus years that I've been working on learning how to truly detox. My friends say I'm the detox queen, but that's only because I read and learn all I can about it. And it takes a lot of years to learn what is the truth, what's dangerous, and how can we truly detox to regain our health. That's what I'm interested in. I'm convinced that most diseases, including cancer, come from toxins. We need to wake up to all we're being exposed to in our food and environment. And we need to realize that we're all full of toxins. Our lymphatic fluid, our lymph system, our brain, our organs, our cells aren't working right. And I believe in order to regain our health, we will have to learn a true detox. And I've been working on my own detox protocol to provide for you guys. So you'll hear about that in a couple weeks. Okay, now back to hormones. Now I know some of you out there are going to ask me if you think it's okay to take natural or bioidentical estrogens, progesterone, or even testosterone or hormone replacement therapy that's bioidentical. You're asking, is that safe and is it okay? Well, good. I'm glad you're asking those questions. Those are the kind of questions you need to keep asking. All right, I'm going to say this. Before you even put those natural hormones into your body, why not ask yourself, why do you think you need them? Is it because you have one symptom like vaginal dryness and you're an elderly woman? Or is it because you're convinced because people told you should have hormones of a 20-year-old because you're 55? So I'm curious why. If you have some symptoms, that's one thing. But if you think it's going to keep you younger, then I don't recommend that. I'm going to tell you right now that if you need estrogen or testosterone, it's not because you're aging, it's because you're toxic. And as you heard today, so many chemicals and toxins are endocrine disruptors, which mean they're wreaking havoc on your endocrine system. Do you know what that is? That's your hormones, your thyroid, adrenals, pituitary, and so much more. This is a very important system for health because the thyroid is like the engine of the car and the adrenals are the fuel. You can't afford for them to go wrong. So taking bioidentical hormones would not be my first choice, even if they are natural ones. So if it were me, I would like to first try to detox out the toxins, and then I would build my thyroid and adrenal glands, and all along the way I'd be eating foods that are naturally high in natural estrogens like soy, flax, yams, things like that. And then I would eat foods or take herbs that help my thyroid and adrenals function better. Detoxing is a huge work to do it right. And as I told you, I'm going to do a whole show on this one soon. But for now, I would like to recommend for you guys to try maca powder. Buy the red, raw maca root powder. You can go to the Vidal Speaks website and use my Amazon banner, of course, and then search in the Amazon search box for the one made by the maca team. And if you have stomach issues, then you should get the gelatinized one because the raw one is a little harder on the stomach. You can buy powder or capsules, and if you buy the powder, you can make this delicious smoothie with a banana, cocoa powder, maca powder, and then you can add cinnamon, cardamom, ginger. It's like a chocolate shake that way. And maca powder has helped many women and men more than bioidentical hormones. So give it a try and take the recommended dosage. I think it's like 3 tablespoons a day for the powder. And try it for 2-3 months. We got to give things time because it doesn't work overnight, but it works. They've had really a lot of studies that show that maca powder has better results than chemical prescription hormones or even bioidentical hormones. And then eat things like yams and drink organic soy milk and eat edamame and tofu and tempeh. And if that doesn't work, then you should think of doing a serious detox to reboot all your systems. Actually, I think you should consider doing that anyway. And as I told you earlier, this year I'm putting together my own protocol and I'm going to tell you all about it in a couple weeks. I'm so excited because I've been working on it a long time. So more on that in the next weeks to come. Meanwhile, I think you guys have had enough of me today. So I'm going to sign off because I know that you guys know what time it is. Yep, it's time to say goodbye, but only until next week. Be back here, same day, same time. Until then, eat tons of hormone balancing plants, okay? Ta-ta for now. Vidal has spoken. Remember, you heal with a plant-powered diet, homeopathy, and detoxing, of course. Peace. Be healthy. Be free. Live life.